Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Rachel, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach. And I'm so excited that you're here with me to join me in this intuitive development journey. And I'm even more excited for this week's episode because this is the first episode, hopefully of many, where I am not doing a solo episode. It is not just me this time. So I have had several listeners reach out to me over Instagram, which, by the way, I love when you do that. It is so nice to actually interact and connect with the people on the other side of my screen here. And I'm not just feeling like I'm, talking out into the abyss. So always please continue to connect with me and reach out to me. I love to hear the breakthroughs you have and the stories of magical channeling experiences that you get after trying some of the things we talk about on this podcast. But some of the listeners who have reached out to me have asked me, can I show an example of a reading with an actual client? So a spiritual guidance session that I offer. And this is what I do mostly every day or almost on a daily basis is I channel for clients and channel their spirit guides. And they come in with questions and I channel their guides and we get all of the clarity that they need for their life. And so I thought it would be a really good idea to share what it exactly it is that it looks like when you get to connect with your guides and when you get to work with me. But this episode is also so near and dear to my heart because this is a client. This was the first session that I had with a client who is now a dear friend of mine. Her name is Indra Kelly. And the first time that we met, so this session is going to be the very first time that I met her, the very first time that I ever channeled her spirit guides for her. And this was almost an entire year ago. And you're going to hear this beautiful reading that we had together. And we've kept in touch since then. We've had several readings together since then. She's also been in my programs. We've also met in person and become really good friends. And it seems like everything that sort of was laid out for her in this spiritual guidance session up and has sort of come to pass, has happened since that session. And I've got to witness it in real time as all of the things that her guide suggested started to play out and started to come true for her. So it was really magical. And she's just such a shining example of what happens when you actually take the advice that your spirit guides offer and start to run with it. And then the magic that sort of aligns and that the universe sends your way when you actually start to listen to those tangible steps that your spirit guides offer you. And it is just so cool to see it in person and in real time. And so when I first met Indra almost a year ago, she came to me. She was an actress and a model. She still is a little bit, but at the time, she was getting really frustrated with the inconsistency of the jobs she was booking for both acting and modeling, and was starting to feel a pull towards becoming something else. And she had gotten a reading from a different energy healer who had said, "You are a healer, and this is something you need to pursue." And then she sought me out to kind of find out from her spirit guides if this really truly is the right path for her, if she should be shifting from acting and modeling to a career as an energy healer. And since then, not only has Indra taken the advice of her spirit guides, which you will hear in this recording, but she's also participated in my 12-week signature program, the Intuitive Power Mastery class. And she's continued to develop her intuitive gifts beyond energy healing. And now she's not only working full time as an energy healer, this is her job now. She's almost completely replaced her income from acting and modeling from doing this work. And it's been just less than a year. So it's so crazy to see the trajectory of once you kind of fall into alignment in the way that your guides sort of offer and lay out for you, how quickly things can manifest for you. And the best part about this, and this is actually a big announcement that I've been so excited to share with you guys, is up until now, I've been saying very clearly on the podcast, I'm going on maternity leave. My baby is due next week, the first week of May, and that you will not be able to book a spiritual guidance session with me until I come back mid-July. And even those sessions are booked up now. I'm booking almost into the end of August. However, Indra and I have been working very closely together over the last few months. And I'm so excited to announce that she has joined my team, and that you will now be able to get spiritual guidance sessions and readings from somebody who is trained directly by me. And while I'm on maternity leave starting in May, you can have a session with Indra Kelly. And I have to tell you guys, she is not only a phenomenal and extremely talented and powerful energy healer, and you will get a taste of that in a session with her, but she is also trained and very intuitive and capable of doing the exact same readings that you get from me, which is that she can connect to your spirit guides. She can offer the clarity. You can ask all the questions to your guides, and she can channel the answers almost pretty much in the same way that I do. But in addition to that, you also get the beautiful benefit of her amazing, powerful, beautiful healing energy. A session with Indra is incredibly life changing, and I know that I seek out her services quite often. Whenever I need a reading, that's who I'm going to. So I'm so excited to introduce you to her, for you to get to actually experience what her trajectory has been since she started to step into her true alignment and her power. And this is the first sort of meeting that she and I ever had. And then next week, I'm having Indra on the podcast. I'm going to be interviewing her, and we're going to talk about sort of everything that's happened since that first session that you're going to hear about today. And she's going to share sort of the trajectory and all of the magic that ensued this past year leading up to where we are right now. And so you absolutely, if you are not wanting to wait for a spiritual guidance session and you don't want me to wait for me to come off maternity leave, this is an amazing alternative. Indra is so amazing and so powerful, and I highly recommend that you go and book a session with her. You can do this through my website the same way that you would book a session with me. So heading over to jessicarachel.co, and then you just click whether you want a 90-minute or a 45-minute spiritual guidance session, and you will see that there's going to be an opportunity to either work with her or me. When you click me, you will see my availability is limited, and that Indra has spots opening up starting the beginning of May, and you can start to work with her in addition, or while, instead of having to wait until August now to work with me. And I'm telling you guys, it is just as powerful. Sometimes I would actually argue in some cases it's even more powerful, because you also get the benefit of her potent, beautiful, amazing healing energy, talents, and abilities. So definitely make sure that you head over to my website and check her out, and go and book a session with her. If you are waiting or on my waiting list, now is your chance to not have to wait anymore. So I'm so excited to have her on the team. I highly recommend it. So there's a couple of things I do want to lay out for you that you're going to hear in this client session, because I do want to argue that Indra's session was probably in some ways not the most typical client session, only because Indra had already started tapping pretty strongly into her own intuitive abilities. So when I describe her spirit guides to her, she already recognized them because she had been channeling them for herself. And this sort of acted as a really powerful confirmation for her that the intuitive sort of experiences she had already had were in fact real, because what I was describing to her, she had already witnessed in some way, shape, or form. So that's not always the case when I work with a client, but it can be if you feel like you're starting to tap into your intuitive abilities, you want some confirmation, right? Then you get another medium to channel for you, and you see that what they saw is what you're seeing. I mean, how can you deny that what you saw was real? So that's really beautiful, and that's what happens. But the trajectory of a typical client session that happens, and what happens sort of before I actually hit the record button, is that Indra and I, we start by sort of talking about what are the questions that she has, so that you don't actually see at the beginning of this session, because it wasn't recorded. And so I take some time to ask Indra, what are the things you're hoping to ask your guides about? What is the clarity that you're needing? What is it that you're hoping to receive clarity on or get answered? So we do talk about that a little bit beforehand. And also, before I hit record, there is a beautiful guided meditation that I do with Indra, sort of my way of offering a little bit of healing energy, but also my way of calling in the guides and making sure that we're grounded, making sure that I'm out of my head and in my body, and channeling with a clear channel. So before that, we do a little guided meditation together. And then I call in the spirit guides. And after that, I will start describing Indra's spirit guides to her. And as I said before, she recognizes her spirit guides, which is really beautiful. And then from there, we start to kind of, I usually allow spirit to sort of offer any messages that they need the person in front of them to hear. So I always tell my clients, there's the things that we want to know from our spirit guides, and sometimes there's the things that our spirit guides feel we need to hear. And so I do always give the spirit guides an opportunity to just sort of share what it is that they need you to hear. And so you will hear me do this as well, sort of let her spirit guides sort of offer the messages they've been dying to tell her before we dive into her questions. And then from there, we do really get into kind of the nitty gritty, tangible steps that she's supposed to take in stepping into her power as an energy healer. Not only do they share with her her overall path and purpose for this life, but they do this by showing her previous lives of hers and how those previous lives act as unfinished business for her in this life. And that really is quite a typical occurrence in a client session that I have, especially if you're coming to me kind of asking, what is my path and purpose in this life? Usually, a spirit guide will show you your previous life, or at least one of your previous lives, in order to show you sort of what acts as unfulfilled or what unfinished business does your soul have. And that will lend yourself to sort of an overarching path and purpose and theme for this life. And so we do touch on that. And then the guides start to get really specific about how they want her to be working as an energy healer, how she should be working with clients, what happens when she offers energy healing, and what does this look like as a career path for her. And they give her some very tangible steps and very specific things that she's supposed to be executing as she steps into this new layer of alignment, I guess I should say, or this new path for her. And I do want to give a lot of credit to Indra that, it's one thing to hear the advice, it's another thing to actually take action on the advice. And this is exactly what Indra does. And so definitely make sure that you tune in to next week's episode where I interview Indra almost a full year later about everything that's happened when she did take action on the things that are laid out in this week's recording in our first session together. It's really magical. It's really beautiful. And I'm so excited for you to get to hear it and get introduced to beautiful Indra. But before we do dive into this week's episode, I do have one other announcement. And that is that at the beginning of the podcast, you have been hearing me talk about the Which Claire Are You quiz. And I'm so happy to see that so many of you have flooded in and started taking the quiz. However, I have started to receive some feedback that this quiz might not be working if you try to take it on your phone. So I do apologize for that. I am working as fast as I can to rectify the situation. If you do try to take the quiz, you sign up for it and you do start getting emails, but you aren't actually able to take the quiz, I highly recommend taking it on a laptop or a desktop. It seems to be working perfectly over there. For some reason, for some phones, it is not loading, and I apologize for that. That being said, you will still get the emails with all of the information that you would have received from the quiz, but it's still fun to take the actual quiz and get your actual Claire and find out which one is yours. So you can still head over to my website and take the quiz, but just for now, while I'm trying to rectify the situation, maybe do it on a computer or a laptop. So my apologies for that. It should be fixed hopefully within the next week, and definitely head over there and take the quiz and find out what your Claire is. So without further ado, that's everything I needed to share before we dive in. And I'm so excited for you to hear this real life client spiritual guidance session or reading. And so here it is, my session with beautiful Indra. I'm just going to take a moment to ask your guide to settle down. She's so excited. It's crazy. Um, so I'm just gonna connect with her and just ask her she's literally like running circles around me. So I'm just gonna ask her to calm down and come to center and forefront so that I can see her clearly. Okay, here we go. So you have this beautiful guide who comes through, if not with a lot of energy. And so I'll describe her to you. The first thing that I have to say is most significant is that she's riding a horse, which is really cool. She comes in riding this beautiful kind of white horse with its long white mane. And that's why I said she was like riding circles around us as she came in. There's a lot of energy with her. And so she has what I can see is just like this. She's just all hair. Like there's just this long, waving, like golden hair. Like it's just, there's a lot of it. And it's like this beautiful kind of golden color. Like it's like a richer blonde, like a deeper blonde. I wouldn't say like light blonde. It's like rich.
Mhm.
Um, and there's a lot, sorry, excuse my throat. She's coming in with lots of energy. Um, she has this really fun energy about her. There's really like an excitement as she comes through. There's really this kind of like, it's almost like she's screaming like, Yahoo! Like there's really a lot of energy with her as she comes through. And she really has like this kind of childlike energy. Like there's just so much excitement with her. She has these big, beautiful kind of, I want to say green eyes. They're like really bright green as they come through. And a very kind of beautiful, porcelain skin, round face. And she wears this kind of, it's like a scarf around her neck. And it's got like these beautiful colors, like sunset colors. So like yellows and pinks and oranges. And it flows behind her with her hair as she kind of goes on this horse. So there's a lot of energy with this one. Um, yeah, so and I'll just note and say that this is just one of your guides. So I know you're probably going like maybe I don't recognize this
Yeah.
one. It's okay. This guide, I always say the first guide who comes through might just be kind of like whatever lesson you're walking through today,
Mhm.
or at this point in life, it might not be your main guide necessarily. And we'll call her through because I do see you have another one in the background who's ready to talk to you as well. But this one's in the forefront. So let's this one feels she needs to share with you.
Right.
And so if it's okay, I'm just going to connect with her and see what messages she has for you. So let me see what's going on with her today. Let me see. Okay. So the first thing she says is she says, I come in with an intense level of excitement because I'm so excited for you. She means like she's excited for
Mhm.
you. Um, she says that you are about to, in her words, rocket fuel towards towards your path of alignment, she says, but more than alignment, she says it's your purpose, it's your mission, it's your path, and it's your journey of growth. And she says that actually you've been, as you probably possibly indicated, that you've been going on sort of this journey a little bit already, this kind of healing journey, this growth journey. And she says you're coming to a place that she calls a tipping point where we're about to kind of dive in and be like, this is what I'm here to do. This is my thing. This is why I'm here. And so that's why there's this giddiness with her, this excitement. She's like, you're right there. She was like, we've peeled away a lot of the layers, a lot of maybe the beliefs that were keeping us stuck, maybe some of the trauma, some of the, old beliefs, some of the shadow. And she says sort of that started to be peeled away quite easily. And now she's saying that you're kind of in this place where it's like blinders, focus, like I'm ready to take off. And she says that's why she comes in on a horse. She's like, it's like I'm in my lane and now like we can charge forward, ready to go.
Oh my God. Wait, so let's look at this.
Mhm.
This was a card I pulled the other day.
No way. That's literally, yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much the energy.
The
Right?
energy. Okay.
First, ready to go, charge forward. And so I'm gonna ask her if she can get a little bit more specific for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what does that mean for you? So let me see what she says about that. It's like she's talking like over me to you, like talking directly to you. So I'm just gonna use her words exactly. She says, I know you think you're here to do healing. She says it's so much more than that. She says it's so much more than just energy healing. And she says you're here for something much bigger than that. And she says it's much more than just working with individuals one on one as well. And so she wants to clarify that for you. She says that you have been given this beautiful light and this beautiful, she says, vibrant personality that is able to connect very well with a big group of people at once. And she says you are equipped to have a captive audience, and you need to embrace that.
Is it for acting? Is she talking about like theater work or about more healing?
Let me see. She says it encapsulates your acting skills, but it's actually that you're she says that you're equipped to have a big audience. In other words, that you're creating your own media in some way. And so what that looks like is, and I'm just trying to get clarity here. She just keeps showing you talking into a microphone. You've got headphones on, you're talking into a microphone, and there's like thousands of people listening. So I'm like, what does that mean? Mm. She says it's more than a life coach, but what she shows me, have you ever heard of Kathy Heller? Because that's who she shows me. Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay. Um, she's sort of like a, I don't even know how to describe this. It's kind of like a manifestation coach, except that she runs programs that they have hundreds of people at once, like taking these programs all at once. Like she also has a very famous podcast. And I don't know why that's coming through, but it looks like that's sort of what she sees you doing, that like you're here to heal people, but you're here to heal them in a really big way. Like it's not just like I'm working with people one at a time. Like I'm walking a lot of people through like this journey at once. So
Okay.
yeah. And she says, because you're so equipped to talk you have this personality and this vibrancy and this kind of beautiful way with people, that a lot of people feel connected to you. And so she says that in some ways, yes, it feels great to work with people one-on-one, but she says your abilities enable you to connect with a big group all at once. Not to overwhelm you or scare you. But she keeps showing me this particular individual probably as a point of reference for me, because I know that this particular podcast, but she has a big platform. So that's, I think, what she's trying to show me is articulate to you your potential.
Okay. So kind
But
of like a Gabby Bernstein type of.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So a speaker, a podcaster, a healer in some way, someone who's going to yeah, like a big entrepreneur is what we're looking at. Definitely a Gabby Bernstein type. Yeah.
No pressure. No
No
pressure.
pressure, and not to terrify you, but she says you're very equipped to do all those things. And so that's why she's like, you're just at the beginning, you're about to take off. And this is sort of where you're heading. And so
Okay. So this is like a 10-year projection, kind of like in the future.
I wouldn't say 10 years. I
Oh,
wouldn't say 10 years. Not to scare you.
okay. But it will come naturally, like
Will come
all of
naturally. Yes, yes. And so, and I just want to say that, everything that sort of spirit guides kind of bring, especially when they come in with this much excitement and energy, a lot of people they're like, this is too much, it's a lot. And they kind of go, Jessica, you're crazy. And then people come to me about 6 months to a year later and they go, I thought you were crazy. And now I'm doing that thing. Right. So,
I love
um,
it.
just to offer that reassurance, it usually takes a little bit of time to integrate for sure,
Right.
but it can happen a whole lot sooner than 10 years for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am just going to ask you, how is all of this feeling so
Feels
far?
great. I'm like totally on board.
Okay.
I love the enthusiasm. I'm ready for it. I think I love Gabby Bernstein. Like this is, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I
This
would
is
love this path for sure.
okay. Good. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad I didn't terrify you right from the
No,
beginning.
not at all. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
yes.
And this is the potential your guide sees for you, which is it really is your path. But also what she shows me is that it means that if we were to kind of play into the quantum physics belief of things, that sort of all versions of ourself exist at once. There's a version of you who's already there, who's already done
Right.
it. Why this future shows up so clearly for you. And so it's almost like your future self is sending love back to you now and letting you know, like, this is where we're at.
Ooh,
Right.
I feel
Yeah.
it.
You feel
Yeah.
it? I'm getting
Oh, it's
chills.
like won't stop.
Yeah. And so there's sort of like she's in the place where it's ready. And it's like you a few years from now is sending that back. Like, I'm just going to get her started. Let's send that energy back to get her here. So your guide says she wants you to sort of kind of be of the mind that a version of you is already there, right? It's
Right.
already happened, right? And now we're just on the journey, which is so beautiful. So I'm just going to I have questions for her, but I'm just going to ask you what's coming to mind. What do you want to ask her right now?
I don't know. For some reason, books popped up. Am I going to be an author as well? But
Mm.
I don't know. Like I'm okay with just speaking. Like I don't need to be an author also. Like, it's
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me see what she has to say about that. She says all within time. She doesn't want you to feel, she doesn't say, she says that's not where you start.
right.
She says it is where you end up, however.
Oh,
The reason being, she says that for you, as you begin to start working with individuals, as you start to create programs, which really seems to be where your alley is, that you're going to create like live programs where people are working with you online, in a big way. She says that there's sort of like a process that you kind of develop that's kind of really true to you. Like, let's go on this journey to discover the true self. There's a healing journey involved. And we're going to dive into that a little deeper in a moment, what that journey is that you work with people specifically on. But it's a process and it's a program. And so it's like, yes, people can sign on and do this program with me, or they can read the book and walk themselves through it, kind of a
gotcha.
thing. And so the book kind of results as like a how can I help more people if they can't, don't have the time to commit to the program kind of a thing.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it comes as like an afterthought. That book, it's not the initial. And so let's talk about what is your sort of true path. Like, how is it that you help people? What is sort of your path and your purpose here? Um, and what does this look like? So she says, she goes, that's not my job. She's like, there's another guide here to tell you about that. Um,
The sass.
yeah, she was like, I'm just here to tell you I'm excited. Like this guide of yours, she's like, I'm just here to give you your future. Let's talk about your past now.
I'm not
Um,
I'm not in charge of the details.
yeah, exactly. Which is so funny. And so another guide is coming through, and it's interesting because it feels very much like your path and your purpose, very much connected to a past life. And so that's who's coming down right now, is this individual, this guide who feels like, and it's interesting because she feels like a guide, not like someone who is in your past life. So I'm just going to connect with her and just see what's going on with this individual, because she's a very different energy than your first guide. Um, okay, so I'm just going to call her in, allow her to come through. Okay, so this woman who comes through, she's got this mysteriousness to her. Very, very wise, very gentle, very grounded. And the reason I say mysterious is because you feel very much like she's this medicine woman, this earth woman, this um yeah, she too has long hair, but hers is dark. Um, and she I almost want to say like she has like a mask on. Like it's like she has this like this black kind of, I don't know if it's like it, does she have just like really long dark eyelashes, or is it like a mask? That's hard to tell. But she comes in, she's very tall and very slender. She's got these very like flowy sleeves. She wears kind of dark colors, but she's very earthy is what I want to call her. Like she has a lot of like almost like earthy clothes on, like kind of like burlappy colored.
Is she my life guide?
Let me see. I get a big fat yes. Yeah.
And
Uh,
does she have a name? Or
I don't always hear the names. I can see if you'll be able to hear the name. Um, I just want you to actually connect with her for a moment, because she said that she's told you her name before.
yeah, it's Anla.
That's so funny. Okay. The reason I'm saying that's funny is because I heard at the end, and I was like something so there you go, Anla. And here she comes. And her hair, it's like it's long and it's dark, but it's like I don't
It's like wavy.
Yeah, yeah. There's like it's got some body to it, this hair.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. And she's very kind of like there's a really grounded sense to her. There's a lot of like yeah, and I almost want to call her like Amazon woman. Like she feels like a woman of nature.
Tall,
Very tall and
but
slender.
slender, but strong.
That's why I
Yeah,
say Amazon.
that's how I saw her. Yeah.
Okay, good. So you've connected to her
I've
before.
connected to her. So when I connected to her, what I got from it was that she was my mom in a past life, but
That's what
like
I was just about.
thousands and thousands of
That's why I
years
said
ago.
like she's your guide, but she also wants to talk about a past life for you. And so that's why I was like, she's been with you before. So there's
Yeah,
kind of the duality there. Yeah. And so let's talk to her about that. Let's see. Like
yeah,
I she feels very it's important for you to know a bunch of things. So let's let's dive in with her. I'm just gonna let her talk for a moment. So just give me a second to connect with her empathy. She almost makes me a little lightheaded because her energy is so intense.
right.
Um, okay, so the first thing she says, she almost has like an accent when she talks. Like she's got this really beautiful kind of earthy voice. So the first thing she says is, I've walked with you through many lifetimes. So
You
she's
what?
not many lifetimes. So she says she's not only just your main guide in this life, she's been your main guide in many lifetimes
Right.
before. So if you didn't know already, you're a very old soul, which I think we knew. Um, and so she shows me that in many of those lifetimes, and now she shows me like kaleidoscope of all of these lifetimes that you've had up until now. And many of them have been you, excuse me, as a healer in some way. You've been female in most of them. So I would say that you really have like a lot of feminine energy, which is really beautiful. And so, but what she shows me, and she says it's very important for you to know that this is a remembered skill for you. She keeps calling you medicine woman. That's what she calls you. You're very much this medicine woman. And she says it's a deep inner knowing of medicine, but she says, and I'm going to use her words, she says, you work with the energies of the sky, you bring it into your heart and out through your hands. And that heals everyone from their tears to their heart. That's what she keeps saying. And that makes me want to cry. um, and then she shows me this image. It's like it's as if you pull energy from the sky. Like she shows me like the sunset, like if it, those beautiful colors that come across. And she says it's like you pull them into your body, it comes in through your heart. And then she says those colors then come out like from your palms into the individual you're working with. And she says, and then it's like you send it into their heart and it allows the tears to flow and then it allows the healing to happen. Which is just like, it makes me want to cry. Like it's just like the energy is so beautiful.
Right.
And this is very unique to you. Um, and the tribes that you ascend from, or descend from, rather, the tribes that you have kind of been a part of. And she says many of these lifetimes have been in the Amazon. And so there are tribes that you work with or that you've been a part of in previous lives where that energy and that healing was I wouldn't say common practice, but well received and very highly revered. And so you were considered sort of the healer of the group. You were taught by sort of grandmothers and mothers, and it was passed on to you. It was part of your lineage in those lifetimes. And so then she shows me specifically how you two interacted in your lifetime together. So if it's okay, we're going to talk about that for a moment.
Yeah.
Um, and she says, this is where it started for you. She says it started with her, or your connection with her. And so she shows me that in that particular lifetime where you two were embodied at the same time, she was actually your grandmother, not your mother in that life. But she says, like a mother, because your mother passed away in that life. She passed away in childbirth. And so your grandmother then took charge of caring for you like a mother, like she cared for you like a mother. And what's interesting is she shows me, so again, this is a lifetime many, many, many years ago. Like we're talking thousands of years. Again, she shows me in the Amazon. So there's sort of like a tribe that you're living
Mhm.
um, in the Amazon of some kind. She says we were the people of the forest. And um, she said other people who weren't part of the tribe called it the enchanted forest, but she said we were the enchanters. We were the ones who kind of infused the magic into the forest, which is
Wow.
so beautiful. And so she says that um, your grandmother knew that this was your lineage, that you were there to be a healer, and that was her role in the tribe. But because she was getting up there in years, it was her job to sort of pass that on to you and make sure that you kind of knew these skills before she passed away. She didn't pass away till you were much older. You were about 21, she says, when you passed away, but she spent your whole childhood, your whole lifetime sort of training you, she says, to be able to have this healing energy, or rather learn how to hone in on it, like hone in on the skill. And so she says that that was really primarily your entire focus of that lifetime, was that you were there as a healer. And so and again, she says she would take you out to the forest and you would kind of sit there in meditation, and you would go at sunset and you would call in those colors, bring them into yourself, and then use this healing energy and bring it out to others. And so people of the tribe knew that if there was sort of any emotion that was getting stuck, that needed to be released, that needed to be healed, anything that yeah, they very much of the mind that emotions need to be felt, right? Pain demands to be felt, and that they didn't want it to sit very long in their body. They knew that caused dis-ease in their body and therefore illness. And
Mhm.
so they really felt that if they didn't release those energies, like it was unhealthy. And so everybody knew to come to you. If there was anything that needed to be processed, it was through you. And you would kind of, have this incantation, kind of call the energy in, place your hands on their heart and allow them to feel the feelings, let it come out. And then it was like whole body release. They just let it go and they can move on um, in their life. And so she says that in that life, after your grandmother passed, you continued to carry on this lineage and carry this on. But she says that word got out beyond just the tribe that this is what you did. And people would come in like from far distances to come and work with you in that life. And this was well before there were planes and trains and automobiles, right? She's saying that people would take ships and they would travel deep into the Amazon to find your tribe. And you were offering healings. And what's interesting is that people would make miraculous recoveries, but it's not necessarily because of the healing energy so much so as it was because the disease was rather caused by stuck energy or stuck emotions. And you were only doing, and so you very much kind of advocated that it wasn't you doing the healing. All you were doing was allowing them to release the emotion. And once they did that, right, everything else kind of the healing happened on its own,
Right.
which is
Right.
so beautiful. How does all of this feel so far?
Feels good. Like I'm like finally making sense of what I do, because I didn't know. Like, my energy, I work with an energy healer just that works on me. And when I told her I was gonna, start doing this for other people, she was like, "You don't do Reiki. It's a
No.
it's a more pure form of energy, and it's like stronger than any type of energy work." So then I was like, okay. So then I originally thought, maybe it's like Egyptian healing. Is there any kind of Egyptian lineage in my past lives?
Yeah.
Which would be Sekhem. But what you're saying with the Amazon tribe, that kind of, it resonates more, I think.
Yeah, and it's there's really this pureness to it. There really
Right.
is. And I don't know, she says there's something really significant about bringing the energies of the sky. I don't know why that hits really hard and really close to home for some reason, but um
That's how I kind of describe it, which is weird because I say that I bring in the energies from the universe through my body. And
yeah,
so the sky being, the universe, I guess.
Yeah, and she just says, like, it's like you look up at the sky at sunset and you bring all of the energy of those colors and you like bring it in and then you bring it through you, through your heart, through your hands into theirs. And so it's really like this, I don't know, it's just such a beautiful process. I love
Okay.
it so much.
Some friends of mine who have had Reiki done before, because we're all kind of like in the same tribe. When I work on them, they're like, it's so different. You have more, it's powerful. Like it's stronger than any Reiki they've ever had.
Yeah, it really is. It's very strong. It's very powerful. And that's what they say. Like it's not like you're just because the way your guide shows me, and as we're talking about it, she shows me Reiki, it's like this one channel of light. And we can see it. We can see it like, and when I see, Reiki healers, because sometimes I do channel for them, and I see it, it looks like one portal of this white light. It comes through their crown, kind of through their chakras and then out. And it can change color, but usually I see it as white and then it changes color depending on who they're working with. But what they show me for you, it's this energy. It's as if you're taking, like, it looks like this, like it's like all the energy of the sky, like coming in, right? And you're pulling that, all of that in, and then it comes into you. And it's not just this one channel, like it's like
Oh
I'm
my
bringing all of this in. So there's really a lot, and there's like you're bringing in the healing energy of nature as well. Like it's all coming through. It's connected very much more to the earth than Reiki is, which is kind of connected to sort of at one string of angelic realm, is what they show me.
Okay.
Like for you, it's not really an angelic healing. It's an earth healing. Like it's bringing in the power and the energy of Mother Nature, and you
Oh
bring it
wow.
and then it comes through you and out. And so she says there's a lot of earth elements that come in. So she says the reason that we feel it, or people who feel your energy so much more deeply, is because you're moving elements through them. And so we can feel that. We can feel when water is being moved through, right? We can feel when earth is being
Yeah.
moved. We live on the earth, we feel those elements a lot more closely than angelic energy, which kind of floats above us, right? It's not really in us as much. And so she says, and also what you're doing though is that you're manipulating the elements that live within us. And so as we said, what you do when the energy comes through is it allows a release of some kind. So any stuck energy, any stuck emotion, it's going to come out. And usually it'll come out in tears, but not always. Sometimes it can come out in laughter. It can come out just in big emotions, usually.
Mhm.
Um, and she says that release might happen right there on the table, right? Or it might happen a couple days later. But what she shows me is that release is sort of like you've moved the energy, but you've also moved the water. She says, like the tears needed to flow. You moved them through, you moved it through them, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or the anger needed to flow and it moved through, and then maybe they'll have like a big release and need to scream, like there's a big release that happens once you put and send energy through them, which is really
Wow.
beautiful. And she says the sensation afterwards, it's like it's almost as if you feel like a bubble rising and then the bubble pops and it's like everything just relaxes and releases.
Yeah.
So
I've heard
that's what.
like a lot of people take really good naps afterwards, or they sleep really well that night.
Yeah, huge relief. I mean, anything that was building up within them has just been totally released, like let
Hmm.
go of and taken away. So they do. They. I can imagine they would sleep
Right.
really well after that. Yeah, and it's really healing. Um, so I just want to ask her because I want to kind of bridge the two for you. Like, how does that life kind of connect to this life and what you're here to do in this life? Is that okay? Can I ask that?
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. So let me just see if she'll kind of share that because she says that's sort of where this started for you. But then every life since then, you've had some sort of healing, journey, right? You've been some sort of medicine woman in some way or another. And so how does that come forward in this life? So let me just see if she'll share. Okay. So she shows me that in that life and in many lives afterwards, again, there was this big theme of people coming from like long distances to come and seek your energy, right? To come and seek your healing.
Hmm.
And she says, but it almost worked, became to a point of frustration for you because you kept trying to tell them that they didn't need you, that they could do this themselves, that you weren't doing anything that was so different that they couldn't do for themselves. And so there was this advocacy of like, I'm not healing you, you're healing. All I'm doing is opening up the channels for you to heal, right? It's sort of like I'm just getting it started and your body does the rest. And there seems to be this frustration of like, they're not listening. They think that I'm magic, right? She's like, they think that I'm this special and that only I can do it for them. And she says that I'm sorry, there's a lot of healing happening as we're speaking, and it's like coming out through my voice. So it's just being in your energy. You're like offering me some healing energy. So thank you. But I'm like, I'm losing my voice in the
I know,
process.
I heard you burp earlier, and that's what happens when you move energy. You shifted something, you moved something in you.
Yeah, I knew. I was like, as soon as I was like, oh man, this one's a healer because it just keeps coming out for me. And I'm like, oh goodness. So here we go. You're offering a lot for me as well, which is beautiful. And so thank you. Just being in your presence and the presence of your guides. But what she shows me for you in this life is that this is really where you're like you've had enough and you're like, I need to get this message across that people can do this for themselves, that people can offer the healing, the release can happen on their own. Yes, I can activate the energy, but this is sort of something that can really be embodied, encapsulated, and used time and time again when needed. So that and the frustration being that they kind of were taking on sort of this victim mentality that only you could save them, right?
Right.
Uh, and there's very much this understanding that if they just listened to what you were doing, that you were trying to show these people that they could do what you were doing or that you could teach them this process and they could do it for themselves and continue their lives without needing to keep coming back to you,
Mhm.
right? They could learn it and be transformed forever, right? And they're, and
So
constantly have,
easy.
yeah. And so, yes, of course, working with you is very powerful, but you're saying that you can teach what you do. You can teach what you do and share it with others. And that's really where that comes through in this life is that this imagery of bringing the energy from the earth, bringing it into you, bringing it from the sky, bringing it into your heart and allowing that release. That is what you're here to teach. That is what you're here to allow to cause breakthroughs for others. And then what you show and sort of what it proves to do is that not only does it heal on a physical level, yes, there's healing, like there's physical
Yeah.
healing, sickness, whatever she says, it heals on an emotional level, she says, but then it allows them to be the most aligned versions of themselves because they let go of anything that was stuck. And then you see people kind of like achieve amazing things by doing this, like anything that was kind of keeping them stuck,
Mhm.
um, released. And so then there's like insane manifestations that happen, right? Big businesses are built, right? Anything, right? Really, it kind of makes them infinite, like infinitely powerful in learning how to do what it is you do. And so this is really the program that we're talking about that you're teaching. This is what you're kind of bringing is that you are your own healer, that I can teach you how to do what it is that I do, right? I'm going to bring this to the world at large.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
How
Okay.
does it feel?
I mean, no pressure.
I know, I know.
No,
And
this
you're
feels good. This feels
good.
good.
Good. I'm glad. And your guide wants to underline that the reason it's happening this life specifically, she says you chose this timing on purpose, like that you incarnate on the planet at this particular time to do it this time, she says, because there's number one, a huge need for it, but number two, a much bigger open-mindedness
I was
to
just
it.
about to say it. I think people are more open-minded. There is a big, huge shift happening, and people are becoming more open-minded to manifestation, breath work, like more spiritual avenues.
Yeah, and so she says that like that's why it's almost like your business is she says that's why it hasn't happened until now for you even in this life. She's like that she was like it all needed to kind of in the perfect time and she's like now's the time people need what you share. And so she's like this is the life you're going to do it and you chose this time specifically because there's a huge up level in the collective consciousness.
Okay.
Which is
And it
beautiful.
will naturally start coming. Like I don't need to like like I don't need to like pursue it now. It will just kind of the right time will find me.
So let's see like kind of what next steps are for you.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, exactly. What are next steps? What do I need to know?
Yeah, let me see. Because I mean, it's not always like passive. They might actually give you like, here, do this, right? So, let me see what she has to say about kind of your first step. I'm sorry, your guides make me a little lightheaded. I like there's so much energy coming through, and I'm like sitting here going like this. So sorry if you see me like rocking. There's
No,
a
it's
lot of
fine.
energy that comes through your guides. Um, okay, I'm just gonna try and ground a little bit so I can hear her a little more clearly. Okay, so next steps for you. So the first thing she wants you to do is she says that she wants you to actually use this energy on yourself first as much as possible. The reason being, she says that if you can prove that you can do it for yourself, she says you'll walk away from any imposter syndrome that you might have.
So
um,
spot on.
is
Okay.
that sort of what you're having at the moment of like, how about me? So she says that when you continue to kind of work this energy on yourself and you start to see the breakthroughs that happen for you, she says then you can kind of prove like to yourself, hey, this really works, right? Like when I bring this energy to myself, like I have these huge releases and then I have these huge up levels every time I do it, right?
Mhm.
So that's where she wants you to start. She wants you to really dive into your process of bringing this energy into you. And she says that you don't have to have an intention before you do it. Like you don't have to say like I'm going to bring it in so that I can do
Right.
something. Because she really just wants you to just call it in as you remember. And she says you have a deep inner knowing. So she says you know your process. And she says you've already been doing it. You do. You have okay. She's like, you know your process. You know how you call the energy and you know how you bring it to others and to yourself. So she says you're just gonna sit and do that. She goes, with no intention, with no like out set outcome, just call it in, bring it to your heart, and just observe, she says. Observe how it makes you feel. Notice what happens in the following days, or hours even afterwards. And she just wants you to just keep bringing it in and allow the energy to flow through you and become unstuck. She says after that, she really wants you to um just keep note. She wants you to kind of like have a journal and just start to observe how are you feeling each time that you do it to yourself. So she said
Okay.
it can be daily, but she says it also doesn't have to be. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the energy to integrate into you after you call it in.
Okay.
Um, so she says sort of like it can be daily, but it doesn't have, she says you'll feel when you need it. Like you'll feel when it's time, like when you're feeling called to sit and do it.
Mhm.
But she wants you to start to just observe and write down like, how am I feeling in my body? How are my emotions? Am I feeling tired? Am I feeling the need to sleep? Like kind of just like those things, like what's coming through. And then she says that, and tell me if this is incorrect. She keeps showing me this image of you going for like these beautiful walks out in nature, either on the beach or in nature somewhere. And
Yeah.
she says this is where like all of your aha moments kind of come through. And that's sort of like you channeling, like when you're asking for guidance, like it comes through you when you're out walking. Is that true?
Yeah. And I haven't been walking lately, and I know I need to get back doing it. But yes.
Okay, beautiful. So she says that that's sort of your three-step process, I guess, or two-step rather, that you kind of do the energy healing on yourself. And she says then, in the following, some point later on that day, or even the next day, you're going to go and have that walk. And she says you're going to notice the aha moments, the moments of divine inspiration that come through. And she's like, you're going to want to either keep your phone by you or a journal so that you can write them down. Because she says they're going to come through pretty fast and strong. So and she says that's how you're going to get all of your next steps. All of your like, this is now do this, now do this. And she says it will
Okay.
come in these big, like, aha, I need to do this. And it comes through with a huge level of excitement, channeling the energy of your first guide who came in, right? Like it just comes through and it's like, oh my God, I need to take off. Like I need to do this right now. Yeah. So it
Okay.
comes with a big hit and it propels you forward in like next steps. And really with the understanding that you're creating your own business right now. So that really comes through, but she wants you to start with this. Start with kind of doing the energy for yourself and then going for those walks and journaling whatever ideas come to mind and also observing how you're feeling post session.
Okay.
So that's first. The next thing she wants to share with you, she says, is again, she really wants you to see this as a business that you're growing, that you really do work with others, that you are a healer in some way, but that you are also going to share this eventually. And so she says what she wants you to do is start to sort of hone in on your process on how you work with others. And she tells me that you actually have already kind of gathered that a little bit. Is that true? Like you kind of know how you heal others. Like you know what that looks like to send healing energy to someone else.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Like she was like she's already doing this. Like she has sessions with people. What are you
No,
talking
yeah, no, I have sessions with people. I have a session
about?
today. I have
Oh,
I have a session today with the girl who told me that I need to start doing it. She does craniosacral and fascia work, and I went to go see her. I was on a photo shoot, and the makeup artist was like, "Oh, she mentioned this girl," and without any hesitation, I made an appointment, not even knowing what fascia or craniosacral was, and I made an appointment. And in our first appointment, she was working on me, and she was like, "You are very powerful. Like you have like a powerful energy." She's like, "The guides are telling me that you need to be doing this, but you don't think you can. So they're telling me do a trade with you because you need to start doing this." And this was just earlier this year. And
wow.
so I started working on her, and the first session, she had a headache from like a previous concussion. Her headache went away and her shoulder pain went away in our first session. And she was
Wow.
like, "You need to be doing this." Like, so her and I do trades, and I'm doing a trade with her later today.
Okay, beautiful. So you kind of already have like your process, like this is how I
Yeah.
work with someone one-on-one. Yeah, which is beautiful. And so the what your guide is starting is saying that, and do you have more than just her as clients?
Yes, I have a few. I'm still getting started, but most of them are my friends and people I know.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because your guide is saying like she goes more of that. She was like, keep doing that more, keep working with people more. And what she says she wants you to start asking them as you work with them is if they can, especially if there's some of them are friends of yours, if they can also um start to share with you if there's any emotional release that happens in the following days after working with
Okay.
you, just asking them as to make an observation for you, because that very much is yes, you're healing physical stuff for sure, but there's also an emotional release that happens for them, and just even ask them like, do you notice if you're any clearer, or do you notice that like you had a big cry, or like you had a big fight with somebody after, like what
Mhm.
happened after our session, and just
Emotionally. Okay. Yeah.
she wants you to start to gather some of that information so that you can see for yourself the effect that it has. Because she says it's one thing when it's for yourself, but she says the energy works differently with each person, so it has a different effect. So she wants you to start to ask them, kind of what that means, because she says then you're starting to gather information. And Okay, and so then she says from there, and what she means and why she says gather information is because this does become a program for you. This is something you're going to create eventually. But what you're really trying to do is to learn and understand the effects of of the energy that you offer, right? It's that there's more than just physical healing here, right? I'm
Mhm.
not just working with people one-on-one in this life, right? I'm going to be showing them how to be their own healer in some way, but also that they're, again, she says, she keeps repeating it. She's like, I bring the energy from the sky into my heart, into theirs, and the tears flow. That's like your kind of like mantra, like I bring it into me, then into them, and then the tears flow. And
Mhm.
so, and that tears flow is the release. And so wanting to start to understand what that release is.
Okay.
And how that feels, and then what aha moments come. So it's almost like she says she wants you to start to create, and this is a very tangible step. She actually wants you to create like a little takeaway worksheet for the people you work with. And it's like just a few questions on it that you're going to have them fill out. And it's, yes, it's helpful for you, but it's also helpful for them. And it's sort of like, yes, how did I physically feel after the session? Right. And then they can like check off tired, sleepy, whatever. They can
Right.
write Write it. Um, did I have any emotional releases after, right? Like, did I get in a fight? Did I cry? Did I sleep? Like, whatever it was. And then the next day, you're going to ask them, did I have any big breakthroughs? right? Like, did I have an aha moment? Did a level of inspiration, divine inspiration come through in some way? Did I have a new inspired, idea?
Right. Okay.
Like, did I have a breakthrough of some kind? So again, if there was some way where they were being stuck, that would come through. So for example, she gives me the example of somebody who like knows they have an idea, they want to start, I don't know, writing a book, for example, is what she shows me. But they just can't get started. Like they just can't get over their, imposter syndrome, whatever. After a session with you, maybe they go home and they have a big fight with their spouse, and that releases the energy, the yelling comes out, and then the day after that, they suddenly start writing, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So it's sort of like there's like this 3-day kind of process of like after they work with you, like there's this emotional release and then this aha moment is what comes through. And there's a big breakthrough that happens. And so she says she wants you to start doing that process for yourself. I do it on me. I have an emotional release and then I have an aha moment when I go walk in nature. I want to see how that looks like with other people. And she says, this is the 3-step process I'm going to start walking people through. Eventually, I'm going to show them how they can bring this energy in for themselves, right? They can
And
call the
do it
energy.
for themselves.
Yeah, bring it in and feel that emotional release and then have the aha moment for themselves. But right now, she just wants you to see how you do it for yourself and for others before you start teaching it. She just wants you to kind of get clear on it.
Well, if you have any emotional release after our call and any aha moments, let me know.
I will. I for sure will. I'm like, man, I'm going to ask for an energy healing when I get to see you in person.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Ask you sort of like, how is all of this feeling for you? How is this landing?
I mean, this is like exactly what I wanted to know. Like, I have this. What do I do with it? Isn't even mine. It's not Reiki. What is it? So all the answers, you answered everything. Um,
Ah.
what about acting? Does she see acting as part of this path for me as well?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see. I don't know if you're gonna like this answer, so sorry, but
Fine. I just give it to
um,
me.
okay. She says the reason you're asking is because on some level it's not fully aligned.
Right.
Um, and so that was her answer, is that she says you have these skills and the ability, the need to sort of be a performer, like the enjoyment you get from performing and from being in front of an audience is going to be fulfilled in other ways as you kind of build your own platform and as you kind of create this huge business. Does it look like acting like in the traditional sense? And um, she says, not really. I'm sorry to
No, it's
say.
okay. I mean,
Uh, she says not really. She says like it's there because you enjoy it. She says you might continue to do it on the side if it feels good and it lights you up. But she says it's not sort of your main career. She says if we're talking Gabby Bernstein level of a career, she says you won't there'll be a point where you don't have time for it anymore, but that also that itch gets fulfilled in
right.
having these big public speaking events and all of these things. She says that it's all of the skills kind of are being used in a different way. And she says what feels really good for you is that that you're using these skills, your ability to send a message out in a way that's going to really hit people in their heart, that's going to touch them on an emotional level, and you have the skills to really inspire and motivate them, and that that it's not just for entertainment, that it's actually for the higher good of the collective. And so that feels much more aligned to you, that in getting to see you speak, see you perform, so to speak, in one way actually changes their life as opposed to just entertaining in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does
Like
that?
kind of, I felt like commercials were like gone. Like I don't have any attachments to doing commercials, but I still really love acting very much. And
Mm,
um, like yeah, shooting a show for a few seasons would be incredible while I do the healing work. And I kind of see that acting for me, and ask if I'm if I'm on the right path on this one, is that acting, yes. I mean, I kind of feel like, yeah, maybe a TV show will come my way which will give me the financial means to keep pursuing healing, or how does the financial income come in to take care of where I'm heading with the healing work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me see. Your guide goes like this. She goes, flip it around. It's the other way. And what she means by that is that that your healing business makes you enough money that you could then create a show of your own. It's the other way around. She says the healing is your avenue of income. That's
Okay.
However, that being said, she says, in the meantime, she says, if you're still obviously, like, we're human, we have needs, need income. And while you're sort of in this kind of discovery phase and starting to take off, she says, of course, if acting work comes along, as long as the schedule is not so intense that it's takes over everything, and that you still have space to continue to explore. She says you're more than welcome to go ahead and like take those jobs. She's not saying stop altogether, right? Income is
Right.
but she's saying she wants you to change your mindset that it's your healing business that is what's going to propel you forward financially, because it's what's most aligned for you. And she says, that being said, again, as you move more into this and you start, creating these programs and speaking to a lot of people, she says that itch gets scratched just in a different way.
Right.
So she says you'll no longer kind of feel that urge in the same way. And again, remember that everything your guides are telling you now, maybe right now it doesn't feel right, but talk to me in 6 months and we'll see how that feels, right? So for right now, she's saying, yes, take the work if you need it. Of course, she's not saying like quit your job. But what she is also saying is that she really wants you to switch hats and say, actually, I'm an entrepreneur. This is my job, right?
Okay.
Acting on the side, but I'm an entrepreneur and I have this job. And
Right.
she's pushing you towards that. Again, your energy is so powerful, and we're talking really like huge healing level. Like we're talking about lots and lots of people. The other thing that keeps coming through, and she showed me this right at the beginning, is you're going to start a podcast. Was that in your mind at some point?
No, never.
Never.
Okay.
All right, well, that's there. And she says that again, it's you sharing information in a big way, and the way you speak, it's so motivating and moving for others, that it's sort of you like, how can I get this message out to a wider group of people? I need people to hear that they can heal this and they can have a breakthrough, and it's very easy. And by having that podcast, she shows me that pulls people in to want to take your program, to reading your books, right? It kind of is like your marketing. And so that really comes through as well, is that you're really going to be bringing the information you have to others, and you can bring healers in. You're going to talk to a lot of different people about the ways that they can be healing for themselves. Yeah.
What I was thinking, I had an idea not too long ago about doing a documentary of different healers around the world, like, the like indigenous people of, like in New Zealand, and then like the Amazon, and in Europe and in all these different places.
Right. And so that's sort of what they said remember when your guide said that like your healing business funds the show you're going to create?
Yeah, that could be it.
That's exactly probably what it is. And she says and your guide is like going like this, like, yes, thank you. Like she gets it. Okay. So
Okay.
she also sorry, just to add to that, she says that all of the ones that you're drawn to sort of highlight on this are all lives that you've had, right? So you've been a healer in each type of these kind of communities at some
The
point.
communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, guys. How beautiful was that session? I didn't remember after watching it back that some of the messages that came through actually brought tears to my eyes, that it was such a truth for her and such a truth for me, that the energy that was coming through for her and that her energy healing was just so aligned for her. And it's just so beautiful to witness. So I do recommend that if you're listening to this on a podcast platform and you want to actually see us as we're communicating, definitely head over to my YouTube channel at I am Jessica Rachel to watch this session, because there's something just so powerful and tangible about the energy that comes through in this client session, in this reading with Indra. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram and share with me if you want more of these, if you want me to share more client sessions. Or if you are a client of mine and you have the recording of your session and you're okay with it being aired on the podcast because you think it might help somebody else along the way and want to be sort of or want to share your story and how it's helped you, I think it could be really powerful to help someone else to sort of see what happens when you do listen to your spirit guides and when you get that clarity and step into alignment. It can just be so powerful. So definitely reach out to me on Instagram as well at I am Jessica Rachel if you liked this, and if you want to hear more of it, I definitely want to know. And of course, if you liked this episode, it resonated with you, and you know somebody else that might just want to hear what happens in this episode, please send it to them. Send it to them, email it, text it to them, do whatever you have to do to get this information in their ears so that they too can start to live their most aligned life. And of course, please don't hesitate to give this podcast a 5-star review so that even more people can find this show. Well, that's everything I have for today. Don't forget to join me next week where I interview Indra and we share with you everything that's happened since this reading that you heard today. I can't wait to connect with you again next week. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone. Bye.